Warning: some viewers may find the following video disturbing or unsettling. Viewer discretion advised.
I had always considered myself an adventurous person, eager to explore the unknown and conquer the darkness that lurked beyond the safety of civilization. That fateful night, however, would put my courage to the ultimate test. It was a moonless night when I decided to venture into the woods. The trees loomed tall and menacing, casting long, shadowy figures that seemed to dance around me. Armed with nothing more than a flashlight and my own misguided confidence, I ventured further and further into the heart of the woods. As the minutes turned into hours, the forest around me grew increasingly unfamiliar. Twisted branches reached out like skeletal fingers, clutching at the edges of my sanity. The dense undergrowth obscured my path, leaving me disoriented and lost. Panic began to gnaw at the edges of my mind, but I pushed it away, determined to find my way back. It was then that I heard it, a faint rustling in the underbrush. My heart skipped a beat, and my grip on the flashlight tightened. I scanned my surroundings, but the darkness refused to yield its secrets. I tried to brush it off as the nocturnal creatures going about their business, but a shiver ran down my spine, warning me that something was amiss. My attempts to retrace my steps only seemed to take me deeper into the woods. The air grew colder, and an eerie silence settled over the forest like a heavy fog. Each footstep seemed to echo through the darkness, and I could feel the weight of unseen eyes watching me from the shadows. I heard whispers in the wind, haunting and incomprehensible. Shapes darted just beyond the reach of my flashlight, and strange noises echoed from all directions. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination, but the fear that gripped me was all too real. As the night wore on, my flashlight began to flicker, its light growing weaker with each passing moment. Panic surged through me as I realized that I might be trapped in the darkness, with only the malevolent forest as my company. I stumbled forward, desperate to find any sign of civilization. Then, just when I thought all hope was lost, I saw it, a dim flicker of light in the distance. My heart leaped with joy, and I hastened towards it. But as I drew closer, my elation turned to horror. The light was not a beacon of safety. It was a will-o'-the-wisp, a wicked spirit leading me further into the heart of darkness. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to flee from the malevolent apparition, but the more I struggled, the closer it seemed to draw me in. The forest seemed to twist and morph around me, the trees contorting into grotesque shapes that seemed to mock my fear. I stumbled and fell, my flashlight slipping from my grasp and plunging me into complete darkness. The forest seemed to close in around me, suffocating me with its oppressive presence. I could feel the cold fingers of the woods reaching for me, pulling me into its depths, and I knew that I was doomed. To this day, I remain lost in those cursed woods, a tormented soul wandering the darkness, forever haunted by the night I got lost in the woods. If you ever dare to venture into those sinister woods, beware the whispers in the wind and the flickering lights, for once you enter, there may be no escape. I always loved old houses, and when I stumbled upon the Victorian mansion on Oakwood Street, I knew I had found my dream home. The moment I stepped inside, I felt a strange connection to the place, as if the house itself was calling out to me. Little did I know that the house held dark secrets that would soon haunt my every waking moment. The first few weeks were blissful. The house seemed to welcome me with open arms, and I felt a sense of peace and belonging. But as the days turned into nights, I began to notice subtle changes. Items would go missing, only to reappear in odd places. Doors would creak open on their own, and faint whispers echoed through the halls. At first, I dismissed these occurrences as mere quirks of an old house, but as the paranormal activities escalated, I could no longer ignore the sinister presence that had invaded my home. I started to feel an icy chill in the air, even on the warmest of days. Shadows danced on the walls, twisting and contorting into eerie shapes that sent shivers down my spine. One night as I lay in bed, I heard footsteps outside my bedroom door. They were slow and deliberate, as if someone was pacing back and forth. My heart pounded in my chest, and I mustered the courage to call out, "Who's there?" The footsteps stopped, and an eerie silence enveloped the house. No response came, but I could feel an oppressive weight bearing down on me. As the days passed, I grew increasingly paranoid. I started seeing glimpses of a figure out of the corner of my eye, but whenever I turned to look, it vanished without a trace. Every night I felt an unseen presence watching me, and I could hear faint whispers that seemed to taunt and torment me. One evening, while I was alone in the house, I decided to confront whatever was haunting me. Armed with a candle and trembling hands, I called out to the spirit, demanding it to show itself. The air grew thick with tension, and suddenly, the candle's flame flickered violently, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. In that moment, a figure materialized before me, a spectral figure cloaked in darkness. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and I felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over me. I tried to speak, but my voice caught in my throat. The ghostly figure reached out towards me, and I could feel its icy grip on my soul. From that night on, the hauntings intensified. Objects flew across the room, doors slammed shut with a force that should have been impossible. The ghost's presence grew more malevolent, tormenting me day and night. Sleep became an elusive luxury, as nightmares filled my restless nights. I sought help from paranormal investigators and mediums, but none could offer relief. They claimed the spirit was deeply rooted in the house, bound by some tragic event from the past. The more I learned about the history of the house, the more I realized that the ghost torment mirrored that of its own life, a life filled with heartache and despair. I knew then that I couldn't escape the ghost's clutches. I had to confront it and set it free. With the help of a spiritual guide, I performed a cleansing ritual in the hopes of releasing the tormented soul from its earthly chains. The night was fraught with terror, but as the sun rose on a new day, I felt a sense of peace settle over the house. The ghost was gone, but its presence would forever linger in my memory. Oakwood Street remained my home, but the horrors of that haunted experience stayed with me, a constant reminder of the thin veil that separates the living from the dead, and the dark secrets that old houses can hold.